In the near future, the Harbinger Corporation has a very advanced robot factory where a cyborg named Mills works. While supervising the most recent models, she receives an important message in her mind. The Harbinger 1 training facility has discovered some anomalies in the model known as SIR, which stands for Study, Analysis, Reprogramming. Mills immediately informs her boss that there were 1.5 million reprograms in just one day, but he only congratulates her for it. Later, at a military base, Captain Bukes discovers from Drifter that they will be sent on a 2-day training exercise on a distant island. Bukes doesn't like the idea, as his team has done 4 consecutive trainings, but he has no choice but to obey. As they leave, Mills approaches him, explaining that she will also go because she needs to check the training hardware. Bukes doesn't trust her and believes Harbinger sent her to monitor the team. When the plane takes off, Mills uses her scanner to learn more about each team member, realizing that Robinson has technological implants in his eyes. When he points his rifle at her and says he sees her, Mills deactivates the weapon with a hacker look, highlighting that she could even shoot from a distance if she wanted to. As they approach their destination, Bukes reminds the crew that they will be monitored and must behave. Mills is surprised to realize that she can no longer access the global network and has no choice but to switch to the local network. The team arrives at the training facility but finds no one, which leads them to wonder who should be monitoring them. As the plane takes off, Mills asks Bukes if they have any ground support or reconnaissance, but he doesn't. After going through a corridor in the facility, the team exits into a forest. They set up a drone and begin to disperse, leaving Mills behind. She notices an unidentified drone among the trees, but says nothing. Soon they find the training site and begin to position themselves, only to find themselves surrounded by strange surveillance drones. Drifter raises his weapon, but Mills stops him, explaining that these drones have been quantum modified, meaning they have no operators. The drones observe them for a few seconds but do nothing. Bukes orders them to move on. Shortly after, they finally find their targets and are disappointed to see that they are very basic robots. They quickly make an attack plan and disperse to open fire with a variety of weapons, from bullets to rockets, while the drones record all tactics. In a matter of seconds, all targets are destroyed. Meanwhile, Mills decides to follow a drone and eventually finds a SAR trying to access it. Immediately, she feels very confused when she cannot access its programming, and to make matters worse, the SAR suddenly turns around and reveals that there is blood on its head. Closing her eyes, Mills sees some images from the unit's training program and is disturbed to see the SAR shooting several people in the face. When she opens her eyes, the SAR is gone, so Mills returns to the team. At night, the team sets up camp and takes a break while discussing Mills. At that moment, Mills is sitting alone analyzing the information she has gathered. Drifter approaches her to see how she is and comments that their radios are not working, but Mills has also been unable to access the global network, meaning something is definitely blocking their transmissions. Then Drifter asks Mills about her chip, so she shares her story. When she was 11, she became paralyzed, so she accepted a sponsorship from Harbinger that cured her. Then Drifter informs Bukes that Mills is also without communications, which makes Bukes even more distrustful of the expedition. Before everyone goes to sleep, Mills realizes that there are still many drones in the forest. Moments later, while Mills sleeps, the strange images she obtained from the SAR keep appearing in her eyes. Meanwhile, Loftus is on guard when suddenly a drone approaches, but he simply sends it away. The drone returns only to reveal something among the trees. It's the SAR, rapidly advancing towards him. Loftus doesn't hesitate to open fire to defend himself. In the camp, Mills wakes up hearing everyone arguing about some strange noises, and Goodwin swears he saw Loftus disappear. The team enters the forest to look for Loftus, but only the next morning do they find a little blood on the grass. Following that clue, they are disturbed to find Loftus's body leaning against a tree. Bukes doesn't believe Mills and points out that errors are not usually so efficient. At that moment, Robinson returns from searching for the missing soldier. The group takes a defensive position while Mills analyzes the area and discovers that they are in the same place as yesterday's targets. At that moment, a drone appears and observes them for a second before leaving, only for a sudden shot to kill one of the soldiers. A group of robots appears in the forest and opens fire on them. The team rushes to hide behind the trees, and fortunately, no one is hurt. When the shooting stops, the soldiers throw some smoke grenades to escape under the cover of the fog. The robots start shooting again, and the soldiers return fire while running. However, Bukes deviates to approach the machines from the side. He shoots one of them but causes no damage, and when the robots see him, they immediately retreat. Meanwhile, a soldier accidentally separates from the team, and 3 drones find him, but he scares them away with some shots. Unfortunately, he is found by the SAR, which lifts him up for another robot to kill him. Back with the team, Bukes explains that the robots he saw are much more advanced than the others and orders Mills to shut them all down. However, Mills says she can't because there's a bug in the programming, so she's analyzing the abilities. Bukes doesn't believe her and points out that errors are not usually so efficient. At that moment, Robinson returns from searching for the missing soldier, but only finds his helmet. The team decides to keep moving forward to continue the search. As they go through the forest, Bukes can't stop thinking about why the robots let them go instead of killing them all, and wonders if it was because Mills was with them. The conversation is interrupted when they find several dead animals that the robots were using for target practice, and they realize that Loftus was used in the same way. Suddenly, the robots reappear on top of the hill and immediately open fire, making the team run as fast as possible. Mills is almost hit, but Bukes pushes her out of the way just in time, making them roll downhill away from the group. Mills hits a tree and loses consciousness instantly. Drifter, Goodwin, and Robinson try to communicate with them unsuccessfully, so they move on. At night, Bukes takes Mills to the entrance of the facility and finally manages to get in touch with the others, who have returned to the camp. The trio wants to go to him, but Bukes orders them to stay, as the darkness would make them easy targets for the robots. Moments later, a drone appears and observes Bukes for a second before leaving, but a busy Bukes takes Mills and hides behind a wall while the SAR approaches, but the robot simply activates something that makes Mills open her eyes for a brief moment, as if there was an information exchange. Then the SIR simply leaves. The next morning, Mills wakes up and Bukes tells her what happened the night before. Mills says they need to find the SAR, but when Bukes asks her why, she can't explain. Bukes orders her to find a good reason, and then they leave to reunite with the others. Everyone is fine, and Drifter explains that surprisingly, they were not tracked, although the robots could have easily done so. Once Mills confirms that the path is clear and all the drones are behind them, they decide to return to the pickup point and wait for transport. Since only Mills can open the facility door, Bukes will take her along the path while the others provide cover from the forest. They quickly reach the door, and while Mills works to hack the lock, the drones appear and throw some smoke grenades, copying the team's strategy. At that moment, the robots appear in the forest and open fire, so the soldiers try to run, but Drifter is shot in the leg. While the trio hides from the intense fire, Mills manages to open the door, and Bukes decides to go rescue his team. Drifter orders Goodwin and Robinson to run while he stays to provide cover. Unfortunately, he is hit again just before the SAR appears and immobilizes Drifter. Bukes does his best to shoot the robots and keep them away, but he is unsuccessful. When Mills notices the delay, she runs towards them, causing all the robots to stop shooting as soon as they see her. Mills tries to shut down the robots, but fails, and the SAR reveals a weapon to open Drifter. Mills insists she can do it and asks the others not to shoot. However, since she still can't make progress, Bukes shoots Drifter to save him from the SAR's torture. When the robots take the body, the team finally enters the facility, and Mills explodes at Bukes, suddenly revealing that she was the one who created those robots. This island is generally used by Marines for training, and Mills knows that Bukes' team was summoned, but she swears she doesn't know the reason. Her robot prototypes are also usually tested there, but the codes have evolved more than she ever imagined. These robots were supposed to replace human soldiers, so they learn and improve like people. A furious Bukes tells her that it's Mills' fault that his men are dead. At that moment, they realize that the robots are slowly cutting through the main door, so they need to find a better defensive position. Mills opens a door to another room, and when they turn on the lights, they are horrified to see an entire army of SAR robots. Fortunately, they are all turned off. Mills opens another door, and they move to a room where they find the bodies of all the facility employees. Mills connects to the computer, but still cannot communicate with the outside world, so Bukes begins to formulate a plan to delay the robots from there. Suddenly, Mills leaves, closing the door behind her to prevent the soldiers from following her. As she returns to the room with the SAR units, she wakes up a robot and activates its speech program to start asking questions. The robot's orders are to execute the human combat program, but when Mills tries to cancel those orders, she discovers she cannot. The SAR explains that it cannot comply because the training subjects are not acting as expected, so they need new, more motivated targets. The robot begins to scan Mills and confirms that it was her program that brought the Marines there, but the conclusion of the training is indefinite. Furious, Mills tries to access the code again but fails. Then the SAR begins to activate the other robots at the same time as those outside finally break through the door. For a second, Mills thinks it's all over for her, but at that moment, the soldiers also force the door and drag her inside before closing it again. While the robots begin to cut through that door too, Bukes finishes placing some explosives and the team begins to flee. Unfortunately, the robots quickly enter and activate the explosives, causing the explosion to also reach the team. Mills is hit by an electromagnetic disturbance, meaning the robots are using EMP grenades. Fortunately, the team manages to crawl out and finds a training area that simulates a city. There is a lot of abandoned equipment in the bodies of previous Marine units. While the soldiers explore and gather any weaponry they can find, Mills enters a tunnel to pick up an EMP grenade from a fallen robot. Then she sees the images that the SAR recorded of her fallen comrades' deaths, which makes her cry with guilt. Once they are properly armed, the soldiers disperse to wait for the robots. Bukes checks on Mills and discovers that the grenade should deactivate the SAR, and by hitting the leader, the other units should also stop. However, the range is short, so they will need a detonator. Mills explains that they haven't been eliminated yet because the robots have been purposely pushing them to get more training. Bukes mentions that the grenade could also kill her, but Mills points out that that's the only option. The team spends the entire night awake waiting for the attack, but the robots only appear in the morning. While Goodwin hides as he carries the detonators for the bombs they left on the way, Bukes opens fire from behind a car and Robinson shoots from his position on the roof. Mills's scanners monitor the streets, and when the robots begin to march, she warns Goodwin to activate the first bombs that destroy many enemies. Soon Robinson comes down from the roof and hides behind a window to continue shooting, and a SAR almost reaches Bukes in the street, but the explosive eliminates it in time. Unfortunately, a drone tracks Goodwin, so he has to flee before the robots also find him. Robinson continues shooting from the window to cover Bukes, who runs to help Goodwin, but this attracts all the attention to him, and Robinson is killed by the robots. Eventually, Bukes and Goodwin find a safe place behind a wall, only to realize that they left the last detonator in the street. Bukes has no choice but to go out again, running for cover behind a car while the robots continue shooting at him. At that moment, Mills appears next to him and grabs the detonator, and her presence causes the fire to stop for a moment. The robots begin to approach, so the couple retreats to guide them to the grenade's location. Suddenly, a robot shoots Mills in the shoulder, and just as Bukes grabs her, she activates the EMP grenade. All the robots fall while Mills is still alive, though with glitches. Unfortunately, the SIR soon recovers and goes after them, so Bukes takes Mills inside the building. When she can move again, Bukes tells her to leave while he stays on the stairs, shooting at the robot. With almost no energy left, Mills crawls on the floor to find Robinson's body, while Bukes runs out of ammo, and the SAR throws him into the room as well. However, the SAR refuses to kill Bukes as it still needs more data to complete the program and goes after Mills. The robot positions itself over Mills, demanding her identification, but she patiently waits for the right moment before replying human and firing Robinson's rifle remotely. As the damaged SAR falls to the ground, it connects to Mills' eyes and downloads some information before deactivating forever, at the same time that Mills shuts down. Moments later, a plane finally arrives to pick up Bukes, Goodwin, and Mills. As they prepare to board, Mills' eyes open, revealing that the SAR's mission protocol is now in her.
If you want interesting movie recaps, like, share, and subscribe to follow us for more movie recaps.